And welcome to what we're going to call, I think, occasionally philosophical. It's a father-son conversation where my son and I try to take a step back from the chaos of the world to see if we can make a little sense of it all.
So the title occasionally philosophical, you came up with that. Where did it come from?
Oh, well, you remember last year when I had that disaster with the therapist. You know, she damn near killed me. And, I mean, obviously you helped me through that a lot. And at that time, I thought, wow, I need to warn people about therapy, about some of the crap that therapists can pull. And my idea was that I was going to go out on YouTube and I was going to make this series of videos to say, this happened to me, and I was going to sort of chronicle my journey back to health.
Right.
And then as I thought about it, in fact, I had recorded a couple of videos and shared them with you, and all of this stuff started to bubble up in my brain as this is too much like reality TV. This is too confessional, and a lot of what I read about the stuff that goes online is this oversharing kind of thing. So I backed off about it. The occasionally philosophical bit was, I have a bachelor's degree, as you know, from a mid-tier university, State University in California, in philosophy.
Right.
But I don't want to step on the toes of the professional philosophers, the guys who've actually gone on to get their PhDs and stuff. But I do tend to think in those terms. Or along those lines, more generally, as you know. So I thought that would be kind of a cool, that it maybe occasionally, sometimes, it might get philosophical, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, exactly.
So you came to me a few weeks ago, about doing this and using my title to do something together. So why don't you kind of tell me that story?
Yeah, so basically, I mean, as you know, pretty much since I discovered podcasts, I've kind of always batted the idea around of doing a podcast.
Well, yeah, you and I have talked about it a lot, and you've had different friends over the years that you were setting stuff up with.
Right.
Whatever happened with that?
It just, I guess like with anything, life gets in the way, and, you make plans and stuff falls through. And a long story short, I invested a bunch of money in podcast equipment, and it just never, for various reasons, it just never happened. And kind of like how I guess everything coalesced into this was we've been having these conversations since I was old enough to have them, basically. Since I was old enough to even comprehend,
Sorry, this is one of the things that we'll do, and if anybody trips across this and listens to it, you may just have to get used to it. But speaking of the conversations that we've been having for this long, you remember when you were 5 years old when I was in the bowling league at Gable House Bowl?
I mean, vaguely.
But we were walking in, and I picked you up from school, and we were going to my bowling league, and I'm just talking to you like I always did. And one of my colleagues I was in the league with was walking in front of me, and she turned around and started to answer me, and then realized that you were standing there. And then apologized, and later she came up to me and she goes, "Do you always talk to him that way?" And I was like, "But wait, what? Did I say something wrong?" And she goes, No, you were just talking to him like he was an adult. And I was like, I was just talking to him like he's a human being.
Right.
But anyway, go on.
So anyways, how this all coalesced is been wanting to do a podcast.
Right.
You had your idea for your personal thing, and then combine that with conversations we've been having for 40 years or so. I thought our conversations are occasionally philosophical.
And sometimes interesting.
Yeah, so it was like, you know what? Why don't we just do it together. That way you can kind of do your thing that you wanted to do, sort of, maybe not exactly, but, and then now we're, here we are. We decided to share our conversations with the world.
So one of the things that I've been struggling with since the incident last year has been what happened to the way that I put the world together. Because the way that I had the world assembled prior to that incident was that things like that don't happen.
Right.
Right. And then that happened.
Right.
So and at first I felt like my entire worldview got blown apart. And then as the recovery process has been ongoing, I started to realize, well, no, that's not exactly true. Yeah. It's not, because my general worldview hasn't really changed that much. I still believe in the things that I believe in. It's just that the warrants for those beliefs have been brought into question, like a lot of the books that I read, and that suddenly that I had built this worldview out of. Now I'm starting to scratch my head going, oh, okay. And we've talked about that. And that inspired you to introduce what you want to start our little series of conversations on.
Right, which is the book Ishmael by Daniel Quinn.
Yeah, why that one?
Mostly because I guess out of all the books that I've ever read, which is not nearly as many as you have, but I feel like more than any other book that book really kind of just changed my worldview, which is kind of an underlying thing of this conversation.
Right.
So basically, before we get too deep into that, I just wanted to kind of summarize Ishmael.
For anybody who hasn't read it.
Right. It's
so a Cliff Notes version, because we get into detail as they become necessary.
But the Cliff Notes version is what is it? It's an environmental.
I would classify it as a work of environmental philosophy. It's fictional, but it's in that genre. It's
right.
It's trying to answer the question. All right, let me see how to frame the question. We seem to be, as a species, on a planetary destruction party, right? We're burning down rainforests, extracting fossil fuels, blah, 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 right? All the environmental issues. And yet, in spite of all these people going, hey, we're killing ourselves, we don't stop. And so this particular book is an attempt by Daniel Quinn to offer a possible reason for why we keep going on the way that we're going.
Right. Yeah.
In spite of the obvious consequences, some of which we're dealing with now, others are predicted in the not too distant future within the next 25 years.
Right. And to basically Ishmael, the title titular character is
nice.
is a gorilla, and our unnamed narrator is a man, roughly your age. And basically Ishmael is attempting to, and I think is successful by the end of the book, is teaching him that, one, we are on a collision course with our own destruction, basically. Right. And also that there is another option, and that, there's another way that we could live that's not necessarily on a collision course with our own demise.
All right. So why do you think I gave it to you? It was about 20 years ago, maybe 15, 20 years ago, something like that.
Give or take. I mean, in our conversations leading up to this, you mentioned that part of it was a reaction to the whole Jehovah's Witness thing.
Debacle, yes.
Yeah. just a
There are certain regrets. Yeah.
yeah. We spent I don't know like 6 years being
No. 4.
4.
It felt like 6, but it was only 4.
Really? Wow. Jeez. Anyways.
All right. Well, part of it was to sort of atone for that, I guess, to give you a different interpretation of the biblical story, which we'll get into in a little while. Part of it was also the fact that the unnamed narrator in the book and I are approximately the same age. It's an interesting thing. I was born in 1956, so I'm part of the boomer generation. But apparently being born in the late 50s, in the later part of the boom, as opposed to the early part of the boom, left the narrator and I in that curious position of being old enough to be aware of what the hippies were up to, like the whole countercultural revolution, but too young to actually take part in it, right? Yeah. But naive enough to believe that peace, love, and understanding was going to rule the day, only to find ourselves in late middle age, somewhat disillusioned by the current state of the world.
Right.
Right. So there was part of it was maybe I was hoping that you would be able to understand me a little bit more.
Yeah.
In that, but mostly because I wanted you to become aware of the voice of mother culture.
Right. Which, once again, if you haven't read the book and you're here somehow, let's break down what.
Well, why don't you? You have. I think you wrote it down.
I have a kind of summary here, so let's.
So we get it right. We don't want to mess up here at the beginning.
Right. So basically, mother culture is Daniel Quinn's term for the invisible but constant narrative force that shapes our worldview. She represents the collective voice of civilization, the deeply ingrained beliefs, values, and assumptions that we absorb from birth without even realizing it. She's not a person, religion, or government. She's the background hum of everything we've been taught to believe is normal, true, or inevitable.
Okay. Now, translate that for the common man.
Okay, so basically he describes it as, well, obviously as a constant hum. It's the idea. Oh my God. I had a, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. There's a lot, there can be a lot to unpack.
Right.
But essentially, what's the story?
Right.
Right. Because that's the thing that.
Well, the simple version is the world was made for man. That's the short version. And then everything else in mother culture kind of goes from that point.
Right. Man is separate.
Man is separate.
Right. His job is to rule, to control, to master, to tame the earth, to bring it under control. All right. We're at that point now where the voice of mother culture is telling a story that says that the earth, the universe was created essentially for man.
Right.
Right. That man is the pinnacle, the apex of creation.
Right.
Et cetera. Right. And in the book, he says that's wrong. Right. And in the voice of mother culture is promoting this.
All the time.
The time. And it's the background hum. So when you say it's the background hum, right, where do you see it?
Well, here's another thing. I have some quotes for the book. Here's one. Man is inherently flawed, and that's why we need laws, government, and control.
Okay, so that's part of the story.
Right.
Right? This is part of the background hum.
Right.
It's everywhere. And so I gave you the book because I wanted you to start to hear it.
Right.
Right. Because what is the, I won't say the primary message, but one of the early messages that you get when you start studying the Bible? God created man, man disobeyed, inherited sin, we're screwed, get used to it.
Right. And even when I mean, and back to the mother culture that the world was made for us, it's like, even in that story, it's described as earth was a paradise that was just given to man.
Right.
Here, this is your paradise.
Right.
And
we screwed it up.
One of the other voice or parts of mother culture is that we're inherently flawed. I mean, even by biblically speaking, we're talking about sin.
Right.
We're born with sin.
And we need the sacrifice of Jesus and that whole story, right? In order to redeem ourselves to God. So leaving aside the religious aspects of it, right? Just the fact that the earth was made for man, man's meant to rule, and that whole thing.
And we act accordingly.
One of the harder things is to actually hear that.
Yeah.
Right? And here's something that I thought about just over the last couple of days, since the last time that we actually talked. I was thinking about examples, right? Like, what are some examples of how deeply this infiltrates and why it's so hard, and why being able to craft or even conceive of the possibilities of some other way to avert the climate catastrophe that seems to be coming our way is how pervasive and how deep it is. And then you start taking into account recent neuroscience findings as far as, just how much influence the subconscious mind has on our decision making, and the things that we do. And that a lot of these hidden, or the voice of mother culture, that hum, is operating at the subconscious level.
Yeah.
Hear it. Here's the example that I came up with. One of the most culturally significant movies of the last 30 years was The Matrix.
Right.
Right. I think that movie spawned a book, which was The Matrix and Philosophy, which I think was the first book in the whole open court, pop culture and philosophy series.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that was the initial book. I'll have to make a note of that to look that up for our next time we get together to talk. But in that movie, you remember the movie, right? And it, like, the cultural impact is huge. You still hear about people being red pilled and all this other kind of stuff, right? But I was reflecting, looking for like the voice of mother culture for an example of just how deeply embedded it is. I was thinking of that meeting, the first meeting when Neo meets Morpheus.
Yeah.
Right? They're still in the Matrix. And Morpheus asks Neo, he goes, "Do you believe in fate?"
Right.
And what is Neo's response? "No." "Why not?" "Because I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my own life."
Right. Yeah.
Now, is that the voice of mother culture or not?
Yeah. Control.
We're in control of our own lives. We decide how our lives go.
Right.
Later in the movie, the voice of mother culture shows up when Morpheus is a prisoner of Agent Smith.
Yeah.
What does Agent Smith tell him? Human beings, I love that voice too. I wish I could do it. Human beings are a disease.
Right.
And we are the cure. Right? Because what do?
They destroy.
No, they multiply, and when they consume all the resources in that area, they spread to a new area.
Right.
Ishmael, in the book, he basically lays that out, that the start of agriculture, right?
Right.
Now you've got food. Well, when people are well fed and happy, what do? They make more people.
Right.
Oh, well, now we need more food to feed more people. All we have to do is expand.
Right.
Cultivate more land. More food, more people. Cultivate more land.
And so on and so on. Yeah.
And this is the process that is causing us to stumble towards Armageddon, so to speak, that we just keep stumbling towards burning more fossil fuels, cutting down rainforests.
It's one of the other things is the constant expansion.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything is like more. We need to build more this, more that, whatever it is. It's always that young woman, Greta Thunberg. She, in one of her speeches,
the Swedish climate.
She actually said it in one of her speeches, and I didn't have it. I just thought of this off the right now. But basically, she was saying something about the fairy tales of endless expansion. It's like the whole capitalist model is that more and more and more and more. We made $50 million this year. Now next year we need to make 60 million or whatever it is. I mean, even in my line of work, it's like I joke and it's like it's never enough. I'm in sales, and no matter what I sell for that month, they expect me to sell more next month, no matter what. And that's just that perpetuation of.
So that's built in to the civilizational story, model, according to Ishmael.
Right.
So what did you think when you read it and the narrator meets the teacher and it gets introduced as a gorilla? Did you go, oh, Jesus?
I didn't really even think, like it wasn't like oh my God, like why did he do that? I kind of just, I don't know, like I've been watching Star Wars and all type of stuff. So it's like a telepathic gorilla wasn't really
that much of a stretch.
And then once you kind of realize like one of the reasons why he chose the gorilla is just because essentially the gorillas still live, and also the captivity part, because part of the thing is the captivity, which is also actually aligns with the Matrix, because Morpheus also says, do you ever feel like you're in a prison, but you
are a slave, Neo. Trapped in a prison, you can neither smell nor taste nor touch. He didn't say see, because everything you look at is the Matrix.
Right. So yeah, whereas basically in Ishmael, he gives a similar example. Like he basically says we're in a prison, but we just can't see the walls.
Well, because we're captive to a story.
Right.
Right. So the significance, at least from my perspective at least, that by making the teacher a gorilla instead of another human being, you have the experience of captivity.
Yeah.
Right. In the physical world.
Right.
You were, like Ishmael tells a fanciful story about being an infant gorilla in West Africa, being captured, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So its entire life, other than, infancy or, or gorilla toddlerhood in the jungle, was
in captivity,
in a cage. Right, being fed twice a day or whatever it is, not the abundance of food that is available to a gorilla living in the jungle, but some human derived slop that they throw at them. Right. So they use that as a pedagogical tool, right, to say, okay, teach what you know. Right. Like I couldn't teach quantum physics.
I don't know. Yeah.
Don't know anything about it. I find it fascinating. I find the discussions about it fascinating. But as far as really even being able to do the basic math of quantum mechanics now, I'm not there. So I look at it from the curious layperson's perspective, like what is this really telling us about reality? How are you using it? Blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. It's fun, but I couldn't teach it to anyone.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas now, if you want to say, what do I know? Well, there's two things that I know intimately well: depression and anger.
Yeah.
Right. And they're related in certain ways. So I could teach that if you want to know about depression and anger. But I'm also coming out of that, and we're working through that ourselves. So did you ever read the book This Is Water by David Foster Wallace?
No.
Did you ever see any of the YouTube clips that were based on it?
I've never even heard of it.
Oh, okay. Well, he's a unfortunate suicide, but an author, and he gave a speech, a commencement speech at a liberal arts college. I think it was Kenyon College. And in this little speech, it's really good. It's a short book. You can read it in like 20 minutes because it's a speech. It's not, it's not a book.
Right.
But he tells the joke about, these two young fish are swimming along, and there's older fish that swimming the other way, and says, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And two young fish swim on for a little while longer, and one of them looks over at the other and goes, "What the hell's water?"
Right.
Right. And that's the same thing about mother culture. It's so pervasive. It's everywhere. It's in the advertisements that you see. It's in the TV shows that you watch. It's in the TikTok videos that are popping up all the time.
Right.
It's on Instagram. It's all over Facebook. I mean, I've been off social media since the summer of COVID and Black Lives Matter and George Floyd and all that. I haven't been on social media since then, for various reasons that we may or may not get into at some point in the future. But so once you hear like that, once you understand the story as Ishmael lays it out,
yeah,
you start to hear it. You see it everywhere, and now you start to back away.
Right.
Like whoa. All right. Why is it so dangerous, I guess?
Why is what the
story,
the
the
mother
voice
culture?
of mother culture?
Well, ultimately, because the earth was not made for us. I mean, I find there was an interesting quote from the book. I'm not going to quote it, but basically Ishmael says, this may be news to you. He's talking to the narrator. He said, this may be news to you, but you're only one species amongst millions in the community of life.
Right.
It's just like, and also the fact that, whatever.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is that part of what's causing it is that this voice, this dominant narrative, teaches that our way of living, civilization, especially Western civilization, and like the industrialized, what do they call that weird? Western educated industrial something.
Yeah.
I'll have to look it up for the next time. But that way, just knocked the microphone. That's the pinnacle of evolution, right? Man is the pinnacle of evolution, and there's no real alternative to doing things the way that we're doing them.
Right.
We just have to do it better.
Right.
More of it.
That's part of the story.
Right. And this cultural story that mother culture tells explains the world in ways that always justify what we're doing.
Right.
Right? Even if it's destructive.
Yeah.
No, we have to destroy this in order to keep the thing going.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So why is it so hard to hear?
Because
mother culture screaming at you?
Well, it's because it's just the hum in the background, because it's hard to hear because you don't even know to look for it.
You don't know to look for it, and anyone who's ever lived near railroad tracks or an airport or a busy highway knows. When you first move in there, it's like, oh my God.
Right, yeah.
And then after, depending on how long it takes you to get acclimated, all of a sudden you don't hear the planes flying overhead.
Yeah, I used to live right under the I lived, I don't know what, 10 miles from the Sacramento airport.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, like, yeah, when I first moved there, I was like, man, these planes, like every 15 minutes or whatever it is, you know, there's a plane flying overhead. And then, yeah, I don't know, after a month or two, it's like you don't even...
You hear it, but you don't really register it.
Right.
Right. And so Quinn says that mother culture doesn't yell. It's a whisper.
Right.
You know, and you have to listen hard for a whisper.
Calms you to sleep, you know, oh, it'll be okay.
It'll be okay. You know, and the funny part is that basically what mother culture says is pay no attention to the nasty old gorilla.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You know.
He actually, I think he's pretty much says almost exactly that in the book.
Yeah.
He's like, your brain is telling you, or mother culture is telling you right now, oh, don't listen to them.
Yeah, don't listen to the nasty old gorilla. It'll be fine, right?
Yeah.
So we have the lessons of mother culture being that humans are separate from nature.
Right.
Right. You know, in like when a child's born, what do we normally say?
What do you mean?
Oh, you hear? When you were born, Mark came into the world.
Yeah.
He came into the world from somewhere else.
Right.
No, the world produced you.
Right. Yeah.
Just like the world produced me.
Yeah.
Now you get into the sort of quasi-spiritual stuff, and it's like, well, if the world produced you, it must have had a reason for producing you. You need to be here.
Right.
Because the world said, okay, I need a Mark.
Right.
Right. Or I need a Doug, or I need an Alice, or a Kathy, or whatever. You know, that's why you're here.
Yeah.
Right. But that, again, goes off. But it's something that I first heard, I think it was Alan Watts in one of Alan Watts's talks. You know, he talks about coming out of the world instead of coming into it. Right. So that's one of mother culture's lessons, is that, no, you're separate from nature. You're not,
right.
You know, you're above nature.
Yeah. One of the other things that mother culture teaches us is that growth is always good.
Is it really?
Yeah. I think back to a few years back, Greta Thunberg, the young woman.
Yeah, the Swedish girl.
Yeah,
I think she's from Sweden. It's Scandinavia at any rate.
Somewhere. But she basically said in one of her speeches that, you know, we're told these fairy tales of endless growth, and, you know, that we're just always going to keep bigger and everything's going to just keep growing. We're never going to have any problems, you know. And obviously she's into the environmental, that her whole thing is the environment. So like she, you know, we're destroying the environment.
She wants to have a planet. When she gets to be my age, she still wants to have a livable planet.
Right.
Right. All right. Fine. Fair enough. What's the problem with a philosophy like that, do you think? That growth is always good?
Well, mostly the biggest problem that I see with it is the fact that we have a somewhat finite resources. And the only reason why I say somewhat is because, you know, you can cut a tree down and it'll grow again. Now, we're consuming the too fast, which is why the resources are more finite.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like, as far as like things like trees or fishing or things like that, I mean, we overfish a lot of areas, so we're, you know, making that precarious. But assuming that we could back off from that a little bit and not overfish, you know, they'll reproduce.
They keep reproducing.
But there are other resources that don't naturally reproduce.
Right.
You know, things like, the lithium that we're digging out of the earth for our electric car batteries, for one. Which, what are we going to do with those batteries when they go bad in 10 years? That's an environmental catastrophe waiting to happen. So we have finite resources, right? So you have this civilizational story, I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Or what Quinn is arguing, that we have this civilizational story that says that endless growth is possible,
Right.
but you don't have growth without resources, without fuel.
Yet to.
And so that, I mean, I've seen various things over the years that we've hit peak oil, we're past peak oil. No, peak oil's still in front of us,
Yeah.
whatever. But eventually, if we keep pumping oil out of the earth,
It's gonna run out.
it will run out eventually.
Right.
Maybe that's 50 years from now, maybe it's 500 years from now. But so that's an issue with that civilizational story, that you can't have infinite growth with finite resources. All right, what else? What else does he say?
Next thing would be that civilization is the only path to progress. There's no other way for us to progress as a people without civilization.
Without, the civilization, like Western civilization.
Western agriculture,
super highways, cell phones, and all that.
Yeah.
And living this way in these cities and in this way is the only way that humanity can progress.
Right. The only way we can have an iPhone, the only way we can have an iPad is if we have civilization. And then, the argument you could say is that against that, I suppose, is that the levers, the tribal people they live for however long you want to say, but thousands, possibly a couple million years, and didn't make much progress.
Well, yeah, they didn't unlock the secrets of quantum mechanics. They haven't figured out, the age of the universe. They didn't invent microprocessors or anything like that.
Right.
They don't have AI, for God's sakes. How primitive.
Yeah, they were still just picking fruit off of trees and hunting, bison or whatever.
Or whatever. Whatever the local animals are. All right, so that seems to be a fairly something we can explore in future conversations. A fairly narrow set of parameters for what constitutes human progress.
Right.
Right. That technological advancement is the only real measure of human progress.
Right. Yeah. They're.
What about our psychological growth and our ability to, help each other out instead of trying to kill each other all the time?
Right.
That might be progress.
That could be that is progress in a different way.
It's just an idea, Mark.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. All right. So civilization is the only path to progress, and we can take that apart in future conversations if we want. What else?
Next one is just if we just try hard enough, we can fix any problem.
Any problem?
Yeah, like back to the finite resources. Yeah, what
are we going to do when we run out of lithium? How are we going to build more electric cars? Where are we going to get our lithium from?
The asteroid, or I don't know. They're going to.
Is there lithium on the moon?
Maybe.
How about Mars?
Right, exactly.
Titan, perhaps?
Yeah.
Those moons of, Jupiter that we're all excited about. There might be life there.
Yeah. So,
there are resources everywhere. We just need to get to them.
Right.
The entire universe exists for our consumption.
Right.
In a sense, that's an extension of what Quinn says. But, me, I tend to go to hyperbole.
Right. But essentially, that's we can, if we have droughts, we can seed clouds, we can, I don't know, harness the power of a hurricane. I don't know. Or we could divert hurricanes so that they
go back and what do they call them? Fish storms. Instead of hitting land, they just spin out over the Atlantic or Pacific or whatever. We can do it. We can fix it. Sea levels are rising. We can raise our houses above the water.
Yeah, like
or
they did on the Jersey Shore.
we can build seawalls.
Yeah.
Right? Now, one of the interesting things when I took an oceanography class at Sac State, New Jersey, where I happen to live, is the poster child for bad coastal management because most of New Jersey's beaches are now down in the Carolinas. because they built those walls to prevent erosion. But the way that the currents move is they take all the sand and they just wash it down the eastern seaboard.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Which I just thought it was funny that all the New Jersey beaches are now in South Carolina.
Yeah.
Or they have our sand. We still have beaches, of course, but we have to keep, dredging and, keeping our beaches because of the fact that we built a wall. Right. And this is part of, you know what? I'm going to leave that alone because that would really take us way off the thing. What else, Mark?
Future episode.
Bring me back.
Future episode.
Yeah, definitely a future episode.
And then the last of these kind of 5 main points we distilled mother culture down to was that history began with us. And by us, I mean agricultural civilization. We all know 10,000 years ago.
Roughly, yeah.
In the Fertile Crescent, which is now, the Middle East, basically.
Yeah, I think it's like Iraq, that general area.
Yeah, they started farming and
they built a city and, man, they figured some stuff out.
Right, right. And all the tribal people were failures, basically.
Yeah, relics of an earlier time. The people that didn't get with the program, so to speak.
Right, exactly.
Why do you think it matters? I mean, the voice of mother culture. Why are we even talking about it here? Why do you think that maybe anybody who possibly trips across this conversation might get some benefit from even understanding that the concept of mother culture? What is it?
I think ultimately it's, if you understand mother culture, it will help you realize how many of your own beliefs, our beliefs, are not really ours. They're kind of just given to us. They're inherited, they're embedded, and they're often designed to keep us participating in this system. This system that I would argue is unjust, unsustainable, and unhealthy for that matter.
Well, think about it. I mean, one of the things that you hear about all the time is the mental health crisis.
Yeah.
Right. And, is the system that we live in, this civilizational system, enhancing our mental health or hurting it?
Right. I would argue that the mental health crisis is just a, what's the word? Byproduct.
It almost seems like it's a feature of
or
the
a
system.
feature. Yeah, maybe even more. Yeah.
A byproduct is probably more accurate.
Right.
Right. But I think at least if you want to be conspiratorial, you could say it's a feature of the system.
Yeah.
Keep everybody off balance,
Yeah.
Why? Well, think about it from an economic standpoint. If everybody's unhealthy, well, then that generate a lot of economic activity.
Right.
In healthcare, self-help books. I haven't verified this, Mark, but one time I was just curious because I have a fairly large collection of self-help books because of my own struggles with my own mental health. And I just was curious as to how many self-help books are published on an average month. And I didn't dig into it any further than just that first level Google search.
Yeah.
And it said that 15,000 self-help books are published every month.
Right.
Well, there's an industry right for you, right? Why should we fix the civilizational system that's causing all these mental health issues if we can publish 15,000 books a month?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that's not the reason, but the perpetuation of the system keeps these things going.
Right.
So you said, and I would like you to expand on this a little bit, because you said our beliefs aren't really ours. What does it mean? What do you mean when you say that? If you looked at me and said, hey, Dad, you know what? Those beliefs that you have, they're not yours. Right. I might understandably scratch my head and go, would you mind elucidating on that a little bit?
Basically, what I mean by that is from the time that we're little, we're learning, forming our own thoughts and learning how to even talk. are, you start at home, your parents, if your parents are Christian, for example, they're going to teach you that. And part of that, the thing is that's also, I mean, back to the point of the mother culture part, is that's the hum in the background. It's telling you that humans are above everybody else. Like even in just common speech, it's like we talk about animals as if there's something different from us. And all of that stuff is just being fed to you from your parents, from media, from
all the conversations that you hear around you. And when you say that they're not, like in the example, that they're not mine, it seems, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like they're unchallenged.
Exactly. So
right. So if we look at the belief, for example, maybe is this what you mean? Like if you look at the belief that you have, and then you've done whatever research or thought about it, however you're going to think about it, and you've decided, yes, I'm going to keep this.
I'm still going to believe it.
Then that means yours. But if it's unchallenged, if you've never looked at it, then it's not yours.
Would
that be a fair assessment of what you're getting at?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just made a bad sound in the microphone.
That's all right. Well, but yeah, so that's that. I think that sums it up pretty well. That you can obviously, because when we're kids and all of these beliefs are being put into our head, we don't really have the cognitive ability to really think about it that much. And then as we get older,
yeah, well, that level of abstract reasoning is something that comes later in your cognitive development.
Right. You end up getting, and this is the thing, this is why I think a lot of people, I would say that their beliefs aren't really theirs. And a lot of my beliefs are probably not really mine in that sense, because I'm sure I could think of something that I'd ever challenged, something that I believe right now that I never really thought about challenging it, because whatever, it fits, it makes sense.
It doesn't cause you any difficulties in your interactions with other human beings.
Right.
To have that belief.
Exactly. So I never challenge it. But then like when something challenges your belief, if you're a thoughtful person, I guess, you're going to step back and, think about it, challenge yourself. Like, okay, well, like, why do I believe this?
Yeah. Or why did this situation turn out so horribly badly, given what I believed would be the case?
Right.
Right. All right. Fair enough. So, I gave you the book, like however long it was, 15, 20 years ago, and you read it.
Yeah.
And mother culture happened. You heard about it. What effect did it have, like, to learn that on you? I mean, obviously you wanted to talk to me about the book, because you think it's valuable, or it might be valuable, the perspective. Maybe not the book itself, but the perspective offered by the book would be valuable to, other people. Right?
Yeah.
What do you think is, I mean, all right, let me try to ask the question. I'll split it in two. Now that you know about this, you have this idea, this concept of the voice of mother culture. Do you hear it?
Yeah.
Can you not hear it?
Not really. I mean, I suppose maybe going back to like my beliefs that I haven't challenged, maybe some of it I don't hear. It's not like, oh, every single, but I do see it a lot. It's.
All right, let me ask you this. Like, every once in a while, you've said that you fall into the trap of doom scrolling.
Yeah.
All right. When you're doom scrolling through whatever, TikTok or whatever it is, do you still hear the voice of mother culture in those things?
Yeah. Like, okay.
Could you give me an example?
Like one example would be it's a hot topic right now, is healthcare.
Okay.
It's you hear, the you hear like the same things over. Well, there's not enough money, or there's this, or your healthcare is going to be worse if we make it government. There's like all these things that people just take for granted. That oh, it's going to be more expensive, or they're going to take the money out of my taxes. But like, if you challenge the belief, like one of the things that a lot of people that I listen to point out is the fact that we spend more money in this country on healthcare than most other countries that have some form of universal healthcare, and we have worse health outcomes.
And yet the system doesn't change.
The system doesn't change because mother culture say, no, this is the only way. This is the best way. We just have to like iron out the kinks.
Right. So it's like a localized version, right, within that particular field,
Right.
healthcare, right? So you have the sort of template that mother culture has, and then you take that same template and now you apply it to healthcare, or some other subfield within the broader cultural
Right.
context.
And I think that now that you mentioned that might be once again another interesting topic for a future episode. Maybe we can dive deeper into specific examples of, I don't know how granular we want to get, but
Well, yeah.
but yeah,
sometimes. All right. So given that noise, right, that's constantly out there, is it even possible to have your own thoughts where this voice is constantly talking in your head?
I think it's possible. I think it's difficult. You have to be like vigilant because it kind of ties into I definitely think our unconscious bias and mother culture are tied very closely together, because
many of those biases are driven by the
mother
stories that we're hearing all the time.
exactly, which
Right.
So, and if you're moving through the world and you're never like confronting or challenging those unconscious biases that you have, then
yeah, you're on autopilot at that particular point. You're just tripping through the world and reacting to stuff.
yeah. So
Based on this constant hum. So if there's this constant hum in your head, that the mother culture. So how does mother culture talk to us?
in that calm kind of tone, whisper, almost
Through what means?
everything, the media.
We're both sitting here. We have an iPad in front of us.
Right.
So, and this connects us to the internet, right? And the internet is the source of all the noise right now. Right. There's something that I've been thinking about, again, as part of my own, journey back towards mental health, however we're going to define that, is this idea that, how do I even grab that? Yeah, that's a tough one, because I have this voice in my head, right, or these things, and then I go, okay, turn the internet off, right? I just put the phone away, close the iPad, turn the, nothing on, sit in silence, right? That's one way.
Yeah.
And then you get the noise, your own head, right? And I had an experience once when I was attending 12-step recovery where there was what they called the meditation meetings, right? And the way it was there was a short text that was written, and then the group, however many people were there, were just supposed to sit in meditation for 2 minutes.
Right.
2 minutes. Just sit quietly for 2 minutes. And I, by the time this was happening for me, I had already had a meditation practice that I had established. And so sitting for 2 minutes was like nothing, right? And yet in those 2 minutes of sitting in those rooms, within like 30 seconds, I would suddenly hear all the movement, shuffling.
Yeah.
Right? And there are a bunch of social critics that have talked about like being the hyperconnectivity, we're always connected, and that part of being able to even hear the voice of Mother Culture is to step back and just sit in silence for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Right? And listen, just let the noise in your own head and look at it and saying, what is all that? And most of what it is replaying of a TikTok video or a YouTube or the last podcast or some commercial that upset you because it was advertising something that you thought you wanted, but then you found out that it costs how much?
Yeah.
Or whatever it is. And that's all the noise in your head. Well, is that really important? Does that matter? No, that's just noise.
Right.
And it takes time to get below that. At least that's my experience, and in the journal that I keep, I have a little Post-it note that reminds me of silence.
Yeah.
Just be quiet and listen.
Yeah, I do the same sometimes. Like, I listen to podcasts in my car, driving to work like most people do.
Sure.
But every once in a while, I'll just not turn one on, just let me just drive to work in silence,
Yeah.
But yeah, so I guess one of the other things I wanted to kind of talk about, just because it kind of resonated with me at the time. I think partly because we had just come out of the Jehovah's Witnesses, and so, but it was the reframing of the Adam and Eve story.
All right. So for our potential listeners, quick recap.
So,
well, they know the Adam and Eve story. I'm assuming
the original one.
The original one. We all know that one.
Yeah. So if you don't know, pause the podcast and go.
Yeah, go grab that dusty old Bible.
But I'm sure everybody knows. So basically, Quinn reframes it as, instead of it being a story of the first sin, or AKA the fall of man,
right?
It was a warning from the tribal people, the leavers, to the takers, that the way of life that they chose to embark on was not a good look, as they,
Are you trying to say that maybe they were looking at the agriculturalists and saying, you may want to rethink that?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what they're doing. And I'll kind of go through the main points of how it's reframed. So the tree of knowledge and good and evil, which was, whatever, Eve ate it and realized she was naked. But the way he presents that is that was the day or the time when the humans, the agriculturalists, decided that they would be gods, essentially. They would make, before that time, the gods decided who live and dies. Now, the eating of the fruit symbolized the fact that we are going to take the power of the gods, and we're going to decide who live and dies. And by the way they did that was with agriculture. They're controlling the food.
Right. As I recall, he tells a story. In the book, he kind of crafts some little fanciful tale about the gods trying to decide how they were going to decide which of the animals, right? Like the rodent and the fox and the whatever, so you have, like, I guess a fox, whatever a fox eats is, getting ready to eat whatever that little critter eats. And the fox is hungry, and the gods are trying to decide, well, should we give the little critter to the fox to let the fox eat? Well, that'll make the little critter mad. But if we let the little critter get away, then the fox will be mad at us. What are we going to do? Yeah. And he goes, and it's a long story. The short version is eventually it's the purview of the gods to tell the fox, don't worry, you're going to be hungry today, but tomorrow, trust us.
Yeah.
Right. And so this is the way that animals lived for since whenever animals appeared for millions of years. And man comes along, agricultural man, I guess, according to this story. No, let you finish again. I got the part in that I wanted about the story that he told about the gods deciding. Yeah. So then that leads to...
So that leads to the next part of that story, which is the Cain and Abel.
Man, I think you're getting ahead of yourself. The gods were the ones that decided who lived and who died, right?
At the time,
and so the Levers are telling the story that's saying those agriculturalists did what?
They took that power for themselves.
They decided that they were as smart as the gods. Right. They took it upon themselves to decide who lives and who dies.
Yeah.
And they do that by what?
By controlling the food.
By controlling the food. So we grow it, and what do we do with it?
Lock it up.
Lock it up.
Yeah.
So what do you have to do to get it?
Whatever.
Pay. You gotta work.
Work.
Get a job.
Pay, yeah.
I mean, that's what it is now.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? But even then, that was the thing. We control the food supply, so we get to decide who lives and who dies.
Right.
And we will live. Humans.
Yeah.
We will grow food for us.
Right.
And we will continue to live. And we will spread, and we will, dominate the earth.
Yeah.
All right.
So, so I guess now I'll get to the part where Cain and Abel, the Cain and Abel part of the story.
All right, so then
so
Adam and Eve have some kids.
Yeah, Adam and Eve have some kids, Cain and Abel. Cain is the farmer, right, and Abel is the herder.
Right.
Right. And in the story, Abel is the one that's favored by God, which is kind of like, when you think about it from the perspective of being a warning, it makes sense. Like, look, we're the ones, we're telling the story, we're doing fine. The gods are happy with us.
Right.
But Cain, who was the farmer, God wasn't happy with him. So Cain ended up killing Abel in the story. So, the farmer killed the herder. And so now when you flip the story, the farmer killed.
What was the punishment for that in the Bible? You remember? I know it's been a long time since we were, reading the Bible every day, but
yeah, I don't.
He was cursed.
Cain was cursed.
Cain was cursed, kicked out of the garden.
Yeah.
And what did God tell him? In the sweat of your brow you will work. You will till the soil.
Yeah.
That farming was a punishment.
Right, exactly.
That's what the Bible says.
Yeah.
All right, now.
So now the story basically is kind of a metaphor for the agriculturalists of that time killing off the herders, the tribal people, the people that were kind of living, that didn't decide they were the gods.
Yeah, now it's one of the criticisms that I have of the book. I mean, because no book is perfect, and the philosopher in me always wants to let me find all the holes in the guy's thesis. But one of the things is that idea that the agriculturalists replaced the hunter-gatherer.
Right.
Whereas the pastoralists did sort of have villages and stuff. They had settlements. They just didn't farm. They got their meat and whatever, from the animals. But, so it was more of a hybrid kind of an existence. And the narrator in the book jumps to one of those mother culture-ish type conclusions where he seemed to think that it was like white people coming out of the north meeting, black people coming out of Africa. That was the conflict.
Yeah.
And you remember, like, he offers this hypothesis to Ishmael, and Ishmael's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's not really it. No.
Right.
It's not a conflict between the white people from the north and the black people from the south. It was black people learned how to, it doesn't really matter the color of the skin.
Yeah.
It's the fact that there was a group of humans,
Homo sapiens,
Homo sapiens or Neanderthals or whatever. That decided that growing their own food, and there was another group of humans that were we're just going to keep doing this thing. So in that sense, then, that story, like this Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel story, is it a moral story then? How should we understand it? Or how does Quinn recommend that we understand the story? Is it a story of our moral failings as humans or something else?
Well, I think the original story is supposed to be the moral failings.
Well, that's the story that's handed down. The story of mother culture is that the story of Adam and Eve and Cain and Abel is a story of morality.
Right.
Basically, God sets the rules, we obey them.
Yeah.
All right. And Quinn says that this story is it would be better interpreted as what?
It would be better interpreted as it wasn't so much moral, it was more ecological and existential.
Yeah, that's the formula. He's saying it's not a question of like your moral failing. It's a question of you're gonna destroy the planet, right? This is not good.
Yeah.
Right. And your survival as a species is now under threat.
Right.
Because
of the choices that you made. Yeah.
So, and then, of course, we've already touched on the fact that Cain, the farmer, killed Abel, the herder. And in Quinn's formulation, this is that the agricultural society displacing these tribal nomadic people.
Yeah.
Taking over their land.
Yeah. Well, we've been going for a little over an hour now, and I know we can talk for hours on end. And at this particular juncture, I'm not sure how many people want to listen to us. So why
ramble on even further
for 3-4 hours, like we can do. So maybe
that would be a little much for anybody, I think.
Yeah. So maybe.
So what do you want to do? You want to wrap it up here, and let's just try to. What are we? All right, we're going to pick this up. This is going to be, what do you think, like once a week, maybe?
Yeah, that's kind of the goal.
All right, so next week, where do you want to go with this? Do we still have more in Ishmael that you want to talk about, or do we? Yeah, is there more in Ishmael you want to talk about, or you want to try to use it to set up maybe it or something similar to it as this place that we're trying to stand at when we look down at the chaos that we're trying to live in with a reasonable amount of peace and contentment in 2025 America? Where do you think? What do you want to do?
Yeah, I think that eventually we are gonna go to that point. I would kind of I think I would, what I want to do, I think for the next episode, is we kind of mentioned it a little bit already, is maybe just go into a little more depth on mother culture, just kind of maybe tease out some examples and, things. I mean, we already kind of talked about the healthcare, but, we can try to maybe just explore some everyday examples of mother culture. And then I guess from there we'll start,
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, I mean, it is. We're flying by the seat of our pants, and you know, we're glad that whoever did join us. Thank you
And made it all the way to now.
to the end. Yeah, no, if you made it to the end, bravo! Thank you so much.
You're a hearty soul. Thank you very much for joining us again. So next time we'll try to wrap up our discussion of the key points, or at least the points that we think are worth taking away from Ishmael, and then continue flying by the seat of our pants to see where it goes from there.
Yeah.
So thank you again for joining us. Mark, you got something?
I'm Mark. You're Doug. But I just wanted to leave you with just this. I'll just leave it with one question. We'll close this with a question. What if the world was never ours to control in the first place? And that's
occasionally philosophical.